Hi everyone, this is Zach with the Money Channel. Cathie Wood from ARK Invest is seemingly bullish on both Coinbase and Bitcoin after the SEC has clearly chosen to pursue Coinbase in a legal battle. Listen to what Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong has to say.
Last July, we were just talking about this, you actually sold out of some of your holdings, citing that regulatory uncertainty. Given the widening crackdown would to some present an even bigger existential threat at the moment, what kind of forms the bull case for adding to that position now for you?
What we're seeing is that the judicial and legislative branches of our government, separation of powers, are starting to weigh in on this topic. And the regulator, the SEC, is part of the executive branch appointed by the president. And as we're seeing cases go through court in the judicial system, the the judicial system is questioning the SEC's decisions here. And so we think this is a good thing. We actually think this is going to be in the courts and in legislation for perhaps years. And what has happened in the meantime? We have Binance under increasing regulatory scrutiny for more criminal activities, and fraud being one of them. And therefore, we have the competition to Coinbase really we think it's disappearing. And so that's a good thing longer term for Coinbase.
And Cathie, you're still maintaining your confidence across crypto more broadly. Are you still confident in that $1 million target for Bitcoin?
For Bitcoin, yes, actually. The more uncertainty and volatility there is in the global economies, the more our confidence increases in Bitcoin. And one of the reasons is we've just been through an inflationary scare. We think it was very much supply chain driven, and Bitcoin is a hedge against inflation. We also believe now that the bigger risk is deflation, not inflation. And why would Bitcoin do well in that circumstance? It would do well because it's an antidote to counterparty risk in the traditional financial system. On the Bitcoin blockchain, everything is transparent. It may be pseudonymous, but we can see all the transactions, all of the activity, and therefore we have a much better understanding of how little counterparty risk there is in the blockchain world.
Cathie, so what you're saying is that you expect those accusations on Binance to actually prevail if you're expecting Coinbase to actually benefit from this? And wouldn't that lead to actually more regulatory crackdown on Coinbase if it's actually become a bigger player even in this industry?
It was interesting to see the SEC sue Binance on one day and then the next day Coinbase. And they were trying to put them in the same bucket. They are not at all in the same bucket. We have two former officials of Binance US coming forward, and actually we now understand that they have been working with regulators and the government generally to help the government understand how Binance US was not separate and distinct from Binance International, and how much CZ controlled Binance US, and how much of Binance's data was in China, and how much commingling of funds there were. Coinbase is not accused of any of this, and it is unfortunate that the SEC took action against Coinbase the day after Binance, and then seemed to muddy. Chairman Gensler, as he was on one of the major news channels, was trying to implicate Coinbase in the same way that he was implicating Binance. No, they're very different. There are questions about what's a security and about staking. Those are the two questions that Coinbase is facing and Binance is facing. But most of the other questions around Binance have nothing to do with Coinbase.
Help us understand from your perspective, when you first saw this lawsuit, what your reaction was.
Yeah, I mean, we were disappointed to see this complaint from the SEC because I feel like we've had a long history of being very transparent with them and really every regulator around the world that we've worked with. So even going back to 2021 when we became a public company, before becoming a public company, you have to disclose everything about your business in depth. There was many back and forth revisions of our S1. And frankly, they had all the knowledge then, and they allowed us to become a public company. And then we're going through time, and Chair Gensler has statements to Congress saying that he doesn't feel he has the authority to regulate this industry. And we're seeing conflicting statements from the CFTC and the SEC chair. And we even filed a formal petition with the SEC asking them for clarity about a number of points in the law, which they never responded to. And then this Wells notice and a complaint arrives. And so this isn't good for America. It's not good for the industry, obviously. And we now need to go get clarity from the courts.
Chair Gensler was on CNBC yesterday. I want to show you a clip and get you to react.
Coinbase, we note that they have, through the Coinbase wallet, you can trade 16,000 different tokens. And there's a lot of debate as to the use cases and whether there's any there. Look, we don't need more digital currency. We already have digital currency. It's called the US dollar. It's called the euro. It's called the yen. They're all digital right now. We already have digital investments. And you have entrepreneurs representing digital investments on this program all day long. And it's whether it's the big tech companies, the automobile companies, you name it. It's all digital right now, the investing world. So what is the real underlying value of these tokens? And that's why you need full, fair, and truthful disclosure.
Do you think this is about disclosures, or do you think this is about the underlying currencies that are on your exchange?
It's tough to know exactly what he means by that. I mean, our self-custodial wallet is not trading crypto, the ones that he mentioned some huge number. That's happening in DeFi. That's not something that we actually operate the trading of. Our centralized exchange is really trading a much smaller number of assets. We reviewed over 1,000 assets in crypto. We rejected 90% of them because we felt they weren't appropriate for our exchange. And about 200 of them are listed on our centralized product. And I don't know, to his point about, what's the there, people are using crypto for all kinds of things. They're not just trading, and they're doing payments with it. Ukraine raised $200 million, and presidential candidates are taking it. And it's a new technology that can be used to update all kinds of financial services, and we don't need the government picking and choosing our technology winners. Let's let the market decide that.
We had John Stark, the former SEC Office of Internet Enforcement Chief for 11 years. He was on earlier. He said it's very specific that in the IPO, the SEC does not approve these things, and it says very specifically they could come back and say that there is additional regulation that's required, or additional disclosures, or additional filings. And I think what they're very specific about is you call yourself an exchange, you call yourself a broker-dealer when it comes to prime. Those are things that you need to register for if you're going to be either an exchange or a broker-dealer, just like the NASDAQ or the NYSE would have to.
A couple points. One is that if you're trading commodities, that doesn't necessarily apply, right? We have actually gone out there and acquired a broker-dealer license because we wanted the ability to trade crypto securities. I think there could be a big, robust market of crypto securities trading in the U.S., even though we don't list any securities today. And by the way, I think you're right. The regulator does have the right to come, edit their thinking at times and come back and say, here's a new set of rules, and great, we'd be happy to follow those. The issue in this case is that we're getting conflicting statements from the CFTC head and the SEC head. And then the statements from the SEC are so, such an outlier. They're saying everything other than Bitcoin is a security. Well, that's not our interpretation of the law. That's not what the law says. And that's not what the position of every other country around the world, their financial regulators, is taking. And so I don't think we really had a choice, honestly. We had to go to court to really see if otherwise this industry is just not going to exist in the United States.